Home. It's more than just a place. Home is a haven, somewhere you feel safe and comfortable because you decide who comes in the door and what goes on the walls. Home is a place where your most personal relationships can flourish, where you can surround yourself with things and activities you like. 92% of Americans say that owning a home is their highest personal priority. 67% of Americans own their own home. Less than 1% of people with disabilities in America own their own homes. Often, the most they can hope for are nursing homes, group homes, and adult foster homes. Like unwelcome guests in their own homes, people with disabilities are often not allowed a voice in the most basic decisions about their lives, commonplace choices most people take for granted. Building on grassroots efforts to return personal control to individuals, the Institute on Disability received funding for the New Hampshire Home of Your Own project. The goal of this demonstration project was to assist 25 people to own their own homes with personalized supports. Through a public and private collaboration, people demonstrated how powerfully they can change their lives.
To me, owning a home is like having your freedom out of the dark ages. That was my dream. I wanted to get, wanted to see, how it would feel to own your own place.
I'm free. I'm free. Very free. And I hope it happens for other people.
So Karen, congratulations. At this point, you've signed all the papers, and now you own your very first home, okay?
The process of closing Laconia State School involved developing a community service system. People moved into group homes, people moved into supported living situations, people moved into family situations. What we had not developed were intimate, personal living situations for people with disabilities.
There was rules, you could only be in a certain room, you couldn't be in somebody else's bedroom, so there was parts of the house that were off limits, and unfortunately group homes were set up back then not so much about the people, putting people together that liked each other, but just putting people together because of their disabilities.
Like I couldn't play my radio, I couldn't play drums, I couldn't play my guitar, and I liked music. And I just felt like being on the ground too long and felt like I'm being closed in. Couldn't do anything.
I always had a kid around me. I don't really care, kids around me,
Currently, traditional residential services and many of the programs in our country are based on providing support and housing together. We didn't think that it was possible for people to have their own place.
No, we never did think that Doug could ever do something like this, to have his own home. It just wasn't even thought of then.
Never in a million years. I didn't even really think about Karen living independently in an apartment. So to go that much further and think about, and I'm still kind of mind-boggled by it. It still seems unbelievable to me. And when I tell people, when people say, how's Karen doing? And I say, well, Karen closed on a house. Nobody can believe it. So it's pretty fantastic, I think.
In 1991, the Institute on Disability received grant funding from the Administration on Developmental Disabilities for a 3-year demonstration project. Collaborating with the 12 New Hampshire area agencies, the New Hampshire Housing Finance Authority, and the New Hampshire Division of Mental Health and Developmental Services, the Institute helped 2 people from each region to purchase their own home.
It was the attention to that fact that people were still living in semi-institutional ways that led us to really think about home control and home ownership as a means of getting away from agency-controlled and service-controlled lives.
We saw a real gap in the ability for people to actually reach the American dream of owning their own home. So we felt like it was very necessary to demonstrate that people could own their own home, that people could get the financing to own their own home, that they could actually be homeowners. There's no magic about any building that we've seen anywhere in the country. The issue is support. Where the magic is how we design the support so that people can get the support that they need and the people around them that care about them so that they can live in their own place and in their own home.
Owning a home is something I always wanted, so, and it makes me feel proud owning a home. I was the first one to call up about it because I was interested in it, and I said, "Oh, gee, this might be my good chance to get something that I wanted," and I went for it. Then I heard other people saying how it's great for them to when they bought their homes. So I said, "Well, gee, I just got as much chance as anybody else here."
He's ecstatic. He can't stop talking about his new home and how it's going to be his, and that he's worked for this and it's been his dream come true. He just can't stop talking about it. That's easy. And it shows every time you speak to him. He really shows how proud he is that he's finally got to this point and now he owns his own home.
What about cleaning stuff, Doug?
Oh, I got some of that.
Okay, you don't need any of that?
Tea. The reason why I moved closer down here is so I could go visit my mom more often.
That's it.
Hello? Yeah? Nothing much. She likes to go for coffee, and I kind of go out for coffee with her, spend some time, go over to the park whenever there's something going on, or just to sit. Like I could have all the company I want when I want them. There's room for animals if I want. Dogs, have dogs or something. It's like taking control of your own life.
The most common question that people ask us about the Home of Your Own project is, if people with disabilities are so poor, how can they possibly own their own homes? It was really the collaboration of attorneys and financiers and bankers and real estate people that helped us realize that with some creative financing, this could be an option for people with disabilities.
One of the most difficult challenges that we encountered is, how are we going to get banks? How are we going to get the secondary mortgage market? How are we going to get private mortgage insurers like General Electric Corporation to understand that someone who receives assistance by way of SSI and state supplement, and also receives Medicaid waiver money, is as good a risk as someone who might be employed in a major company.
The Home of Your Own program has had a major impact on public policy here at the Housing Finance Authority. I realized there would be a lot of barriers in implementing the program. Two of the major barriers would be, one, how do you do the underwriting standards for someone who is developmentally disabled? And the second major barrier, you do need down payment and closing costs and the developmentally disabled population is not able to accumulate the resources to put together a down payment for a home. It was a step-by-step process. Each major barrier we would approach, how can we overcome this barrier? We were able to change 3 or 4 different systems. We changed the systems here at the Housing Finance Authority. We changed the way we did underwriting criteria. We changed the way we looked at some of the paperwork that we handle. We changed the way the lawyers handle some of our paperwork. We changed the way the banks have viewed those loans, have helped them become far more comfortable in handling different kinds of loans instead of the loans that fit neat little packages.
When we first got into this, we realized that it was a risk. It was a risk for everyone. We had never done this before. The people who were buying their own homes had never even thought about it to a certain degree, or never thought it was going to be possible. People's families didn't think it was possible. The banks didn't think it was possible, or weren't sure.
Yes, I remember talking to one of our underwriters and saying, look, the risk here is minimal. And when I use the word risk, I think that kicked in with the bankers, because bankers are in a position of analyzing the quality of the risk.
Okay, so that'll leave you with put 350.
People often ask, well, this is a special program. It must differ in some way from the buying process that any one of us would go through in buying a home. And the short answer is it really isn't any different. It's filled with the same anxieties, fears, and stress that any homeowner goes through when purchasing their own home, and I don't care who it is.
I'm very proud in the day he signed his papers. It was a very emotional day, and his father would have been really proud of him.
I do like living on my own. With a little help, and I love living on my own. And that's a big step for me. A big step.
Since the beginning of time, we know that people have created a situation where they've had their own space, whether it be a cave or whether it be a shack in the woods, that it's their own turf. And that sense of place is very important to people. In the traditional residential services, if it's not working out for their support, the person loses their house also. They lose their home. What is very interesting about this project is if something comes up and something's not going right, the person doesn't move. That has to be figured out in that person's home. If the support falls apart, then the support has to be redesigned in the person's home. The person's not moved. It's their home. They own it.
I was at a home before, and it didn't work out as good as this home. So that's what I explained what you were like doing, and ended up fine. He made my life happier. And I like that. He makes me happy, and I make her happy too. So that means a lot to me.
One of the hardest things for people who provide support is to let go of the control that they've had over people's lives. It was very interesting at the beginning of the project. We ran into a situation where the support people were actually saying, does it mean that I have to knock on the person's door before I go into the person's house? Does it mean that I'm going to have to ask before I make coffee at the person's house? Because they were so used to having all of those things, just doing those things. And it wasn't that they were bad people. It was that they just were so used to being in control of everything that went on in the person's life. Now that the person now had control over those things, It was a whole different way of looking at the way they were providing support.
So people don't understand. I'm the boss. I am the boss. My parents not the boss. I am. And they can do they can feel the same way I am. The way that my parents were always a boss on me. And it feels so good.
At first, I thought, I'm going to miss her. I'm going to lose her. Of course, at first, it hurts. And after a while, you know, if you stay involved, it'll be easier on you. Because if you don't get involved, you don't know what's going on. And you're better off knowing what's going on. I bump into her on Main Street. Sometimes I'm driving through. Frances is right behind her. And all of a sudden, she'll recognize the van and yell. I could see her yelling, "Here's Ma!" And her hair's flying. It was a windy day. Her hair was flying all over the place. She feels comfortable the way she is. Because that's what she tells me. She says, "Ma, don't worry about me."
Do you like your apartment more than this, or do you like this place more than your apartment?
I think this.
You like the house more than your apartment?
Yeah.
Why do you like this house more than your apartment?
'Cause I don't like it. I don't like cats around me.
Yeah. Anything else?
No.
There's no cats here. You're not going to have cats here?
No. Way.
Every step of the way, people need to plan. And so what we did with this particular project is that we held meetings every 2 weeks or 3 weeks or every month, as many times as we needed.
From the very beginning, the person with a disability should be at the center of the planning process, supported by close friends and associates. Planning for people to own their homes is an extensive process of developing and maintaining quality supports, identifying the ideal neighborhood and home, and arranging for financing. Some people will choose to rent or lease their homes, particularly in areas where ownership is out of reach to lower-income people. Ongoing, person-centered planning ensures that people with disabilities shape the experience of living in their own homes.
Very good. Karen, I'm going to have you sign this one too, okay? This is important because this is the one that talks about your mortgage payment, telling you how the payment is broken down and what your total payment is, where you're going to make that first payment, and when it's due, which is August 1st. Okay, so we're at the very bottom.
I think Karen is developing a sense of homeownership. It sort of shows up unexpectedly. She'll tell someone, initiate telling someone on her own, do you know I have a new house? And that I'm moving into a new house.
This whole concept is new, but it's so basic. This is very ordinary. The end goal doesn't have to be for people ownership. The issue is control. Who controls the entrance to the front door is really the issue.
I remember the first client that came in through the Home of Your Own program, Jenny, was actually a woman my age, a former resident of the Laconia State School, and I could see myself in her. And I knew that she wanted to be able to move out of the group home into her own home, control her own environment, and I really could empathize with her. And I really felt that it was so important to me to be a small part, but a part of that process and kind of make it happen. It made me feel very good about having my job and be able to do things like that.
It feels good to me to know that if I'm not around, that Karen has that stability, that security, providers, roommates, housemates will come and go. That's guaranteed. But the building, the place, the home for Karen, hopefully will just be there.
I really wanted it to happen, and it did happen, and I'm very happy about it. And I hope the other person be happy like I am. I want other people to be happy like I am.
It's gonna feel groovy, real cool. This is my place. I hope to be here for a good many years.